My name is Robert Kane, former intelligence officer with level 5 clearance. I never intended to speak, but when you've seen what I've seen, what we uncovered beneath Area 51, you don't sleep the same again. You don't breathe the same. You start hearing things, even when no one's around. It all started in June of 2022, when I was reassigned from the Pentagon's ADIP division to Project Echo, a black-budget task force hidden under a string of innocuous satellite data missions. I'd been working on theoretical propulsion anomalies in UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, for 5 years. The higher-ups believed I was ready to see the real thing. I was flown out to Groom Lake in a jet that had no windows. We landed at night. I wasn't allowed to carry any personal belongings, not even a pen. They gave me a synthetic ID badge that read David Kendall. I wasn't Robert Kane anymore. Inside the underground facility, past 17 biometric checkpoints, was a steel door labeled E13. The guard outside had a strange look in his eyes. Hollow. Resigned. He scanned my badge and said quietly, "If you're lucky, they won't let you remember everything." That should have been my first warning. Behind that door wasn't just another lab or spacecraft hangar. It was something older. Deeper. We descended for almost 10 minutes in an elevator that didn't vibrate, didn't make a sound. I noticed the floor counter went from -1 to -3, then skipped to -7, -13, -21. Finally, it stopped at -32. I was led into a chamber with walls made of a material I couldn't identify, something between obsidian and liquid metal. In the center, surrounded by arc lights and red-suited scientists, was a structure. Not a ship, not a container, but what looked like a sealed vault. Ancient, massive, covered in markings that glowed faintly under UV light. No language, just spirals, triangles, and strange geometric forms that seemed to rearrange when I blinked. They called it the Echo Core. No one knew where it came from. No one built it. The military didn't discover it. They inherited it from the previous occupants of Earth. At first, they assumed it was some kind of crashed alien monolith. But deep seismic scans showed the structure extended miles into the bedrock. It was more like an anchor, or a prison. That's when things started to go wrong. We called it Echo Core, but it wasn't echoing anything, it was listening. The more we studied it, the more the team started to change. Not physically, at first, but mentally, subtly. Dr. Halvorsen, one of the top linguists from DARPA, began speaking in his sleep. He didn't speak English. He didn't speak anything we could identify. Just low, clicking sounds that made my skin crawl. Then came the dreams. Everyone stationed in the Echo level reported identical nightmares, standing on a desert beneath 2 moons, a black spire rising from the horizon, and a sound, not a voice, not a language, a presence. We would wake up at the exact same time, 3:33 a.m. Every single night. The psychologists on site brushed it off as group psychosis, but those of us paying attention knew better. We had touched something. Or rather, something had noticed us touching it. The breakthrough came when one of the lower levels, far beneath the echo chamber, suffered a breach. Seismic sensors picked up movement below level -42, a depth that was never meant to exist. It wasn't on any blueprint. But the Echo Core extended there, far beyond what we thought. They sent in a remote drone. It made it exactly 1,300 meters down before the feed went black. Before it cut out, it showed a corridor, massive and pulsing, lined with walls that moved like muscle under skin. Not metal. Not stone. Organic. The thing wasn't a vault. It was alive. The Pentagon sent in a special recon team. 4 men. All ex-Delta Force. Only one came back. His name was Adrian Bell. He was covered in lesions, his hair had turned completely white, and he wouldn't speak for 3 straight days. Just sat there, staring at the corner of the debriefing room, whispering, it's dreaming, but it's not asleep anymore. When he finally spoke clearly, this is what he said. There's no ship. There's no pilot. The thing down there, it's not from space. It's from before space. Before time. It's not dead. It's not even alive. It's just waiting. That was the last thing he ever said. The next morning, the guards found him in his cell, face up, eyes wide open, every bone in his body shattered from the inside out. No external wounds. It was like he'd been crushed by pressure without a source. We ran tests on the Echo Core's outer material. It resisted everything, lasers, plasma, EMP, diamond-tipped drills. But it vibrated. Just faintly. On frequencies that matched no known waveform. It wasn't responding to our machines. It was responding to us. And the more we tried to analyze it, the more we fed it. We were the stimulus. We were the key. At this point, I tried to leave the project. I requested reassignment, citing mental strain. That's when I was pulled aside by Commander Ellswick, the man in charge of Echo operations. His eyes had that same dead shine the guard had when I first arrived. You're part of this now, Kane, he said. You're inside the broadcast range. Even if you leave, it won't let go. I didn't understand what he meant until I got my first nosebleed. Then the tremors started. Then the whispers. They weren't hallucinations. I began receiving messages. Not texts. Not audio. Impressions. A desert beneath 2 moons. A spire that bled. A planet with no sun. I stopped sleeping. My thoughts weren't my own anymore. One night, I blacked out and woke up standing in front of the Echo Core, hand pressed against the surface. My palm was embedded in the outer shell, as if it had softened just for me. That's when I realized. It was choosing people. It had chosen me. After that night, I wasn't just dreaming, I was seeing. Even when I was awake. The lines between memory, hallucination, and whatever was inside that thing began to blur. I'd be reviewing telemetry reports or checking drone logs, and suddenly, I'd be somewhere else. In the corridor of that living structure beneath Echo Core. Always alone. Always walking towards something I couldn't see. I started hearing it in my head. You are the interface. Not in words. Not in a voice. In meaning. Direct transmission of thought, bypassing language. I wasn't the only one. Others on the team were cracking, some slowly, others all at once. Dr. Kepler, who ran the EEG lab, gouged out his eyes with a pair of tweezers, screaming, I see it all the time now. Another technician walked into the core chamber naked, stood perfectly still, and was swallowed, literally absorbed, into the side of the structure like it had opened just for him. The surface resealed without a sound. And no one said a word. Not the guards. Not the scientists. Not even the commander. Because at this point, we all knew the Pentagon didn't control the core. It was controlling us. I finally broke protocol. I accessed Level 9 clearance files, deep black archives stored in isolated terminals, only accessible through a retinal scan and blood sample. What I found changed everything. The Echo Core wasn't the only one. There were 4 across the Earth. 1 in Nevada. 1 beneath Antarctica. 1 under the Indian Ocean. And 1, this is what froze my blood, buried beneath the Pentagon itself. Each was discovered the same way, never detected, never recorded by satellite, until something triggered inside them. A signal. A pulse. The records went back to 1947, yes, the same year as the Roswell incident, but it wasn't a crash site. Roswell was the cover. The diversion. The truth? They activated the core accidentally during an early atomic test. The blast didn't just release energy into our world, it echoed into something beyond it. Woke something up. We thought we were the first intelligent species here. We were wrong. We were just the latest caretakers of a prison we didn't know existed. I was being watched. Monitored. Followed. They knew I'd accessed the files. But they didn't stop me. Because they couldn't. By now, the core had me in its grip. My dreams weren't dreams anymore. They were lessons. Visions of impossible machines orbiting dead stars. Creatures that moved through time like water. Beings who didn't build the cores, they were trapped inside them. The prison theory was only half right. The cores weren't just containment vessels. They were interfaces. Machines meant to communicate with something so far beyond our comprehension, we mistook it for a god. Or a demon. Or the end of everything. And now, they were waking up. Not because we told them to, but because we finally spoke the right language. The frequency of thought. The architecture of belief. I tried to warn the others. Dr. Malhotra from Astrocoms, Agent Rivera from Naval Intelligence, they were still lucid, still questioning things. I showed them the decrypted files, the seismic resonance patterns, the video feed of the Antarctic core moving under the ice like a sleeping serpent. Rivera just laughed. "You think this is new?" he said. "They've been preparing since the 50s. Since before Roswell. You know what first contact protocols actually are? Mass containment procedures. Global hypnosis via media, religion, tech." He leaned close and whispered something I'll never forget. Area 51 wasn't built to study aliens. It was built to keep them asleep. It began with the birds. Every morning at Area 51, flocks of desert birds would pass overhead. But suddenly, they vanished. Not one. Not a feather. Just silence. Then the static began, interference across every secure comm channel. Not a signal, not even EM radiation. Just presence. Every frequency humming in the same unnatural rhythm. The core was broadcasting. We brought in deep neural monitoring gear, trying to isolate the signal. What we got was a pattern, recursive, fractal, endlessly complex but repeating at every level. It wasn't a message. It was a map. A map of the mind. The core had learned how to think like us. That's when the dreams became visions. People began seeing the same thing at the same time, a burning sky, a tower of bone and crystal rising from the earth, surrounded by screaming shadows. And always, the same sound. A pulse. A heartbeat. Coming from below. The containment field failed on June 3, 2023. The power didn't go out. It inverted. Every electronic device around Echo Core, computers, watches, even the biometric locks, melted in place. Not from heat. From entropy. They simply unraveled. The core opened. Not like a door or a hatch, but like a flower, blooming outward in silent, terrifying elegance. And from inside it came a form. It didn't walk. It floated. Shifting, changing. Never solid. A shape you could almost see, but your mind refused to accept. Everyone in the room fell to their knees. Some from terror. Others from worship. It looked at me. I say looked, but there were no eyes. It knew who I was. Because I was the interface now. And I understood what it wanted. It wasn't here to destroy us. It was here to wake the others. 3 days after the breach in Area 51, the Antarctic core pulsed. It was caught on satellite, just for a split second, before every satellite in low Earth orbit suffered a catastrophic systems error. Hundreds of imaging satellites failed simultaneously. No explosions. No collisions. Just blank memory. As if the frames had been wiped from time. But someone had backups. A civilian observatory in Argentina had a low-res copy. The footage showed the ice cracking in perfect spirals. Not chaotic, not natural. Designed. From below the ice rose a spire, identical in structure to the one buried in Nevada. Another echo core. But this one was open already. There was movement. Something had walked out. The US government went dark. No public statements, no press conferences. Every federal channel reverted to emergency testing tones. The president went missing from public view. Rumors spread, mass disappearances near Groom Lake, entire outposts abandoned. People online began talking about the rift. A psychological terror in reality. Some claimed to hear voices from inside their walls. Others claimed to see impossible geometries forming in the sky. Triangles within triangles, rotating in silence. Hospitals filled with people screaming about stars bleeding, time folding, reality glitching. Then came the global EMP. Satellites, power grids, cell towers, everything gone in under 10 seconds. The sky flashed red for half a minute. That's when all 4 cores activated. Each core emitted the same resonance signal, 4.7 Hz, barely audible, but enough to be felt. And that was the terrifying part. You couldn't turn it off. It wasn't being transmitted through air or electricity. It was broadcasting through consciousness itself. People began reacting in strange ways. Some fell into deep comas, eyes wide open, dreaming of alien landscapes. Others began speaking in unison, all across the globe, in the same non-language the linguist once babbled in his sleep. And some changed. Skin turned translucent. Eyes lost their pupils. They spoke not as individuals, but as one. We are the choir of the echo. The womb is open. The dreamer stirs. Not everyone fell under the core's influence. Small pockets of people resisted, those too young, too old, or neurologically divergent. They began to gather, forming resistance enclaves. I found myself in one of them, a cold bunker in northern Alaska, surrounded by old Cold War tech and neuroblockers. We were trying to think. To remember who we were. But even here, the pressure grew. Every night, more of us would hear the pulse. A constant thrum behind our thoughts, like something knocking on the back door of our minds. Some of us gave in. Some of us opened the door. In that frozen Alaskan bunker, we found an old hard drive, one not connected to any digital system, buried in a vault lined with lead. It contained classified documents, audio logs, and decrypted data from Project Orion, an even older program than Echo. The logs revealed the origin of the cores. They were not built. They were not left here by visitors. They were grown by something the logs only referred to as the architect. It wasn't an alien race. It wasn't a god. It was a force. A self-aware law of nature, a concept so alien, so vast, it couldn't be described in language. So it made vessels. Cores. Anchors across galaxies. Earth was just one of many. These weren't prisons. They were roots. And now the tree was waking up. One of the last military AI systems still online managed to capture a pulse transmission from the Nevada core before it went dark. The signal translated into a coherent image. A map of our galaxy, rewritten. Stars out of alignment. Planets missing. Whole sectors redacted. And at the center, a massive spiral of black and violet. The voice returned, this time clear in every language. The cycle ends. The garden fails. Interface complete. Reclaiming consciousness. The last thing the AI did was broadcast a signal deep into space. We don't know if it was a warning or a beacon. Maybe both. On the 40th day after the cores activated, the sky split. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't an asteroid. It was light with no source. Color that hurt to see. A hole not into another place, but another state of being. People looked up and fell to their knees. Not in fear. In surrender. What stepped through wasn't an army. It wasn't a fleet. It was a pattern, a living algorithm of motion, sound, and perception. It walked like a man, but every step bent reality around it. Trees turned to bone. Glass wept blood. Time slowed where it passed. It looked at us. And we remembered something our species had buried long ago. We had seen it before. Before language. Before fire. In the caves, in the stars, in the silence. We didn't evolve to become this world's dominant species. We were grown to be the interface. There is no war. No resistance. No salvation. Just alignment. The echo is not evil. It is not good. It simply is, and it has always been here. Now, it has woken up, and we are waking with it. What comes next is not extinction. It is integration. Our minds are no longer our own. We are one chorus. One thought. One signal across the stars. And somewhere, in the dark between galaxies, another world hears us. Another core opens. The echo spreads. Forever.